Hello everyone, this is the video for week 6 of our language and literature class M5/1 to M5/5 code 32101. This is teacher Rose here. This week we are going to talk about indirect or reported speech, but this week the focus will be on questions. Please make sure to watch the last video once again before you start this lesson today. Last week we talked about reported or indirect speech for statements. This week we are going to talk about reported or indirect speech for questions. So please make sure to watch the video of week 5 once again before starting this session today. Reported questions. A reported question is when we tell someone what another person asked. To do this, we can use direct or indirect speech. Direct speech is the actual word that someone says to ask the question in this case. For example, "Do you like working in sales?" he asked. The quotation marks here are showing that this is the exact question that someone asked about someone else. What did John ask? Indirect speech would be, he asked me if I liked working in sales. This is not the exact words that John said, but this is what we are mentioning about what he said. Because it's a question, the verb here is asked. What changes in reported speech? We often make changes to the tenses and other words in the same way as for reported statements. For example, have done changes to had done. Have done is present perfect simple and it changes to past perfect simple. You remember with tenses in reported speech, we always roll them one tense back. Or the time word today changes to that day. We have talked about all these changes in our previous video, so make sure to watch the last video once again before you continue any further. Other than the changes that happen to the statements, which we talked about in the previous video, there is one more thing that you must do to make an indirect question. You need to change the question form back into the statement form. For example, the direct question is, he asked me, when can I call you? The indirect question would be, he asked me when he could call me. Be careful that you cannot say, he asked me when could he call me, but you have to change the question form into statement form and say, he asked me when he could call me. Let's look at one more example. The direct question is, they asked us, where will you be? The indirect question would be, they asked us where we would be. So you have to roll the tense one time back, will changes to would, and you have to change the question form into statement form. Will you changes to we would. Question types. There are two types of questions in English. Type 1, yes, no, or closed questions. For example, Are you a student? Or did you go on a trip? These questions are called yes-no questions or closed questions because you have to answer them with yes or no. Are you a student? No, I'm not. Did you go on a trip? Yes, I did. Type 2. WH or open questions. For example, where do you live? Or what are you doing today? WH or open questions are the questions that start with a WH word like where, when, who, what, or which. When you're answering these questions, you need to explain your answers. So that's why they are open questions. We will talk about these question forms in reported or indirect speech today. Yes-no questions in reported speech. When you have a yes-no or closed question, you need to connect the two parts, the reporting verb and the reporting question, with the word if or whether. If is a more common word in reported speech for questions. For example, we asked Andrew, "Have you bought a new game?" The reported speech would be, we asked Andrew if he had bought a new game. Have you bought a new game is a yes-no question. So after we asked Andrew, we use the word if or whether, and then we change the question form into statement form. First we use the subject, he, and then we use the verb, but remember you should change the verb one time back. Had, bought. Let's look at another example for yes-no questions in reported form. Are you going to the Helsinki conference? The reported speech would be, he asked me if I was going to the Helsinki conference. It's a yes-no question, so after he asked me, you use the word if. Are you? The question form changes to I was, and the verb moves the tense one time back. So the answer would be, he asked me if I was going to the Helsinki conference. And one more example. Have you finished the project yet? Can you say what the reported speech would be here? It's a yes-no question. So, after the phrase she asked us, we need the word if or whether. If is a common word. So she asked us whether. The question form changes to statement form, so we need the subject first, we. Have finished is present perfect, it changes to past perfect. Had finished. So the complete sentence is, she asked us whether we'd finished the project yet. And one last example for these types of questions. They asked us, are you French? It's a yes-no question. So the answer would be, they asked us if we were French. You changes to we because they asked us. And it comes first because you're changing the question to statement form. And you move the tense of the verb one time back. Are changes to verb. They asked us if we were French. Now let's practice reported speech with yes-no questions. Question number 1. Did you meet at a school? He asked them A. If did they meet at a school? B. If they'd met at a school? And C. Had they met at a school? Which one do you think is the correct answer? Did you meet at a school is a yes-no question, so you need if. In this case, C is wrong because you cannot see if here. And then we also said you should change the question form into statement form. A is if did they meet. B is if they'd met. One more change is changing the tenses one time back. So did you meet is past simple. You have to move it one tense back and it would be past perfect. Now what do you think the correct answer is? The correct answer for this question is, he asked them B. If they'd met at a school. Question number 2. Were you listening to me? She asked us A. Why we'd been listening to her. B. Whether we'd been listening to her. C. If we were listening to her. Which one do you think is the correct answer? Were you listening to me is a yes-no question. So we need to use if or whether in our sentence. A doesn't have if or whether, so A is the wrong answer. Let's look at B and C. B, whether we'd been listening to her. It is short form of we had been. And C is if we were listening to her. Look at the tense of the original question. Were you listening to me? It is past continuous. And you know that you should change the tense one time back. So, the past continuous changes to past perfect continuous. In this case, the correct answer would be, can you say? The correct answer is, she asked us, B, whether we'd been listening to her. Past continuous in the original sentence should change to past perfect continuous. Question number 3. Had you already met him? She asked me, A, whether had I already met him, B, if I already met him, and C, if I'd already met him. Yes, no question. We need if or whether. All of these 3 options have these words, so we should look further to find the correct answer. The tense of this sentence, the original sentence, is past perfect. Had you already met him? If you go and watch the previous video again, you will remember that past perfect does not change in reported speech. So we need to keep past perfect the same. But remember to change the question form into statement form. Subject before the verb in the answer. So, according to what I said, what do you think the correct answer is? The correct answer would be, she asked me if I'd already met him. Apostrophe D, met. It is past perfect. So the tense doesn't change because we have past perfect. But subject comes first to change the question into statement form. Question number 4. Do your best because this is the last question for yes/no exercises. Have you eaten all the cake? She asked me, A, if had I eaten all the cake? B, when I'd eaten all the cake? And C, if I'd eaten all the cake? It's a yes/no question, so we need if. Then in this case, B is the wrong answer. We cross it out. Between A and C, if had I eaten, or C, if I'd eaten, which one do you think is correct? We need to bring the subject first to change the question form into statement form. It is past perfect simple, so we don't need to change it. The correct answer would be, she asked me if I'd eaten all the cake. The tense is the same, apostrophe D, eaten, had eaten, but the subject goes before the verb, and we need a if here. Now we are going to talk about WH questions in reported speech. In WH or open questions, like what, where, why, who, when, or how questions, we use the question word to report the question. We do not use if. Other changes are the same as yes/no questions. For example, what time does the train leave? The indirect question or the reported speech would be, he asked me what time, so we should repeat the WH word, and then we need to change other things like change the question form to statement form. First, the subject. What time the train? And then we should change the verb one tense backward. Does leave is present simple, so we change it to past simple, left. The answer is, he asked me what time the train left. Let's look at an example. Where did he stay? The reported speech would be, she asked where he had stayed. It's a WH word, so we copy the WH word after she asked, and then first subject, then we change the tense of the verb one time back. Did stay is past simple, we change it to past perfect, where he had stayed. What have you eaten? Can you change this one into reported speech? We have a WH word what, so we should use the same word in our reported speech. After that, we need to use the subject, and then we should change the verb into one time back. Have eaten, present perfect, changes to had eaten. So the answer would be, he asked me what I had eaten. One more example. Try to answer it before you look at the correct answer. What can you do by next Saturday? We have a WH word, so we need to use it. After that, we should use the subject, change it if necessary, and after that, change the verb one time back. Can here should change to could. The correct answer would be, he asked me what I could do by the following Saturday. Okay, now let's practice reported speech with WH questions. Question number 1. How will you get to France? I ask them, A. How will they get to France? B. How would they get to France? And C. How they would get to France. This is a WH word, so after I ask them, we should use the WH word, in this case, how. After that, you know that you should use the subject first to change the question to statement form. Because it is I ask them, so the subject should change to they. You changes to they. I ask them how they, and now you can say what the correct answer is. A is wrong because will didn't change one time back. B is wrong because would they is a wrong word choice. It should be they would. So, what is the correct answer? Okay, the correct answer is I asked them how they would get to France. Number 2. Who else have you told? They asked me, A. Who else I'd told? B. If have I told? C. Who had I told else? It's a WH question, so which one is definitely wrong? B is definitely wrong because we do not use if with WH questions. Between A and C, which one do you think is correct? The WH here is who else, so they should go together. After that, you need a subject, and after that, the verb should roll back one tense. Have told should change to past perfect, had told. So, what is the correct answer? The correct answer is, they asked me who else I told. Question number 3. Why are you wearing sunglasses? She wondered, A. Why he was wearing sunglasses. B. Why was he wearing sunglasses? C. If he was wearing sunglasses. I'm not going to give you any hints and help for this one. Can you choose the correct answer on your own? Remember, WH words should repeat, subject goes first, and after that, change the verb one tense back. What do you think the correct answer is? Okay, the correct answer is, she wondered, A. Why he was wearing sunglasses. WH word, subject, and the verb moves one tense back. Present continuous changes to past continuous. Question number 4. This is the last question. Can you do it on your own before looking at the answer? What can we do about this? We wanted to know A. Whether we could do about it, B. What we could do about it, and C. What could we do about it? What is the correct answer? Remember all the steps? It's a WH word, then you need to use the subject first, and then you should use the verb, but move it one tense back. The correct answer is we wanted to know what we could do about it. WH word, subject, can changes to could. Reporting verbs for questions. The most common reporting verb for questions in reported speech is ask. You have a choice to specify the person or not. If you specify the person, do not use to. For example, he asked. Or you can say, he asked me. But you cannot say he asked to me or he asked from me. As we mentioned, the most common reporting verb for questions is ask. But we can also use verbs like inquire, want to know, or wonder. For example, did you bring your passport? She wanted to know if they'd brought their passport. The rules are the same, you're just replacing ask. You can say she asked or she wanted to know. When could you get this done by? The answer? He wondered when we could get it done by. Instead of saying he asked, we can use the word he wondered. The rest of the rules are the same. Now let's practice both forms of questions, yes, no, and WH questions in reported speech. For doing these exercises, please take a pen and a piece of paper, look at the question, pause the video, write down your answers before watching the rest of the video and check. Put the following questions into indirect speech. For example, the direct speech is, he asked, has anyone seen Jim? How do you say it in reported speech? What kind of question is it? Has anyone seen Jim? Is it a yes-no question or a WH question? Yes, it's a yes-no question. So we need the word if or whether. So the answer would begin with he asked, if or whether, then the subject, anyone, and after that the verb has seen should move one tense back. Present perfect has seen changes to past perfect had seen. And then the rest of the sentence. So the answer is, he asked if anyone had seen Jim. One more example. He asked, where is Jake? Can you say what the reported speech is? It's a WH question, so after he asked, you should write the word where. He asked where, and then you should write the subject first. He asked where Jake. The verb should change tense and move one time back. Is changes to was. So the correct answer is he asked where Jake was. Write down your answers before checking with the video. Number 1. I asked James, how long do you have to wait? Change this sentence, this question into reported speech and write your answer down. The answer would be, I asked James how long he had to wait. Because you are asking James, so you in the original sentence changes to he. Have to changes one time back, had to. Question number 2. She asked me, are you working tomorrow? Write down your answer. Pause the video before you check. This question is a yes-no question. Are you working tomorrow? So with yes-no questions, after she asked me, you should use the word if or whether. And then the subject. Because it is she asked me, you changes to I. Are working is present continuous. Should change to past continuous. And tomorrow changes to the word the following day. So the answer is, she asked me if I was working the following day. Number 3. He asked his boss, will I get a raise next year? Please write down your answer. It's a yes-no question, and it is he asked his boss, will I? So I should change to he. Because it's a yes-no question, we also need if here. So the answer is, he asked his boss if he will get changes to would get a raise. Next year changes to the following year. Question number 4. He asked, why is everyone laughing? You write the word he asked. It's a WH word, so you write why. He asked why. Then the subject everyone and is laughing. Present continuous changes to past continuous. Was laughing. The answer is, he asked why everyone was laughing. Question number 5. Sam asked Jim, what are you doing this afternoon? Write down your answer. The correct answer is, Sam asked Jim, what he was doing that afternoon. Good job. And the last question. The students asked, "Can we go home now?" Write down your answer. The correct answer is the students asked if they could go home then. Good job, everyone.